But a question I really wanted to jump to right away comes from Rania. And Rania asked this, as it relates to training for climbers. And now, there are a lot of sports, rock climbing, mountaineering of all kinds, bike riding, where your body mass kind of gets in the way of high performance. But of course, there is going to be a cost to benefit ratio. So Rania's question actually gets us to a good place that I think is applicable to everybody, not just the climbers in our group. So let's go, 2 questions, 2 multi-part questions, but 2 basic questions. How do I gain strength without getting big? Well, actually getting strong without getting big is one of the easiest things you can do. You lift weights, but you ignore higher reps. Now, this comes up a lot, whether or not rep schemes really do lead to strength, power, hypertrophy, that little staircase that we do. I would argue, though, from my experience, that higher reps, more now called time under tension, leads to more hypertrophy. So the easiest way to get strong without building mass is to keep your numbers in the singles, doubles, and triples range. Now a hand goes up, and that would be my hand. Well, little Danny John went from 162 pounds to 202 in 4 months by Olympic lifting, never doing more than singles, doubles, and triples. Okay, that's true. But for most people, most people, including myself, I had ignored my traps, I ignored my spinal rectors, I ignored my butt and my thighs for a long time because I tried to bench press and do basic circuit training for most of my youth. When I started doing an Olympic lifting program, my body just blew up. Now, also, my body blew up because where I was in my own secondary puberty, it was an ideal time to grow. And also, too, Dick Notmeyer basically forced me, that's a big word, I don't know if I ever stopped eating during the years I was with Dick Notmeyer. Now, it led to other issues later, but that's, if you want to be a Division I discus thrower, you got to do that. For most people now, if you stick in that 5 sets of 2 range, 3 sets of 3, you could even do all kinds of small hybrids. Those are pretty good programs. The traditional easy strength 2 sets of 5, you can get very strong and keep the increase of mass to a minimum. Also, and now this might be controversial for some people, I think the movement of squatting is important to do every day for everybody. This morning I did original strength work on a beach before I did my presses, and went for a walk. But I think the movement of squatting should be done daily. If you're trying to stay away from mass, the movement of squatting is important. The load would be less so. If you're going to do something like, I don't know, body weight for 50, it would certainly make you up here stronger, but I think it might lead to a lot of extra size, which is something you probably don't want in your climbing. So for strength in the lower body, I would recommend the hinge family. That would be the deadlift and all of its variations, the kettlebell swing, the clean, the snatch. Pat O'Shea, the great late Oregon State professor, he was a very, very famous mountain climber also, and he focused on the snatch and the clean for a lot of his preparation work. Squatting, certainly do it, but do goblet squats, do, whatever it is, lighter loads, get your strength from the hinge. And of course, I would say your upper body work would be complementary to your lower body work. Of course, the more you hike, the better hiker you're going to be. Next question, and do I gain a lot of muscle if I train legs only once a week or twice, depending on the workout of the day, in the workout that shall not be named? If you're doing that other thing, that word that shall not be used on my podcast, then why would you even listen to me? I see no value. Workouts of the day, if you get hurt, especially you hurt your shoulders, your hips, your knees, and your back, doing those kinds of high intensity, look at me workouts, and that pulls you away from your goals. Then he asks a completely different question. What would you think about the lift and sprint workouts? Now, what that is basically, for those you don't know, like a set of 8 in the goblet squat, followed by like a hill sprint or a sprint if you have good technique. It can also be a set of 8 in the goblet squat, followed by a sled pull. If you know more variations, I traditionally did overhead squats followed by sprints, and I have a lot of pictures of me dropping the bar. And I'm already sprinting, the bar is still about 7 feet in the air coming down. Yeah, that would have a lot of value. If you have a great base of climbing and you decide to add those lift and sprints to it, yeah, I think that's probably the best idea. So maybe in the deep off season, think 3 sets of 3 in most of your exercises. But as you slide into, maybe, just before, a couple weeks before you start hiking, combining the goblet squat with hill sprints. And I'm very specific in this case, your case, goblet squats followed by hill sprints. I think that might help you maybe not be the best mountain climber the world's ever seen, but your resilience will be better, and that's kind of what we want. Now, to follow up, we have a couple more questions. How much do I have to train antagonistics, in my case, probably all pushing muscles, to keep my shoulders balanced? Is once a week enough? I try to do some mobility exercises for my shoulder every day. And it's interesting, when he said climbers, my mind instantly went to mountain climbers, because that's who I have worked with historically. But as a rock climber, would there be value in doing a once a week push workout? It's interesting, because if you decided to say, okay, once or twice a week, I'm going to have a squat pull workout, and the rest of the time I'm going to focus on some other things, I think that's not a bad way to go. Most of the good rock climbers I know, are excellent at pulling and are natural born squatters. Somebody one time told me that I don't know, this is just a very simple observation. They said to me that the legs in rock climbing basically do a set of squatting hops, and I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. And then I watched a few people do rock climbing, and it was really obvious to me that the good ones squatted up the hill, and the bad ones let their butts get way away from the rocks, and then came in way away, and then came in. You could really see the difference, especially as they ascended. I would suggest everybody do mobility work for their shoulders, but as a rock climber, you should be fine with that. If you have bad mobility and you're a rock climber in your shoulders, then that would be tough. So, quickly to sum, can you gain strength without getting big? Sure. Keep the reps down and just get as strong as you possibly can. In a lot of sports, you want to get as strong as you can, but any and all extra size will hurt you. Percy Cerruti, the great Australian that I based a lot of my work on, had his marathoners. It's kind of funny when people online they say, those numbers you have are way too high, and I'll be like, marathoners, according to Cerruti, should be able to bench body weight and deadlift double body weight. We're talking about marathoners and ultra marathoners. And then you got some, normal person, it's like they think it's the greatest accomplishment in the history of the world to double body weight deadlift. So keep the reps tight, 3 sets of 3, 2 sets of 5. Use the rule of 10, in other words, 10 quality reps per workout, 5 sets of 2, 2 sets of 5, 3 sets of 3, 5, 3, 2. Use the movement of squatting as often as you can for, I would say, for lower body mobility and the health of the lower body and lower back. And I think you can accomplish it fairly reasonably without having to think too much. Good question. I really appreciate it.